All right, now to prepare the sample, okay, you'll need a melting point tube. They usually come in these larger sleeves. You'll know that it's a melting point tube because it's open at one end. Can be difficult to see, I'm sure, but it's closed at the other end. We do have in the lab what are known as micropipettes that are about the same size, but they're open at both ends. So make sure when you want to do a melting point, you get a melting point tube. Now we need the sample into that little spot. To be honest, the best way is to take a small amount of your sample on a watch glass and tap the open end into the solid. Okay. Get about that much. Believe it or not, that's enough for a melting point. But now we need it in the closed portion of the tube. Okay. These long glass tubes are usually held next to fume 1. Okay, for today, you'll find them on the top, okay, of the lab drawer bench because everybody's going to be using them at the same time. And just simply let the melting point tube down the thing, and you'll notice that it bounces, etc., and the concussion is enough to move the solid down to the bottom. Now you actually want to take the melting point, and our melting point apparatus come in two forms. We have one that's programmable with a digital readout. Okay, sounds absolutely wonderful. I find the background on these to be a little hard to see. Okay, but if you have one of these at your bench, you're going to use the melting point tube, insert it from the side, and you look through the blue cylinder, which magnifies the sample. If you have one of the older Meltemps, okay, you'll need a thermometer that goes high enough in degrees C. Okay, there's a large cylinder here for that, and then just in front of that, there's a slit that has 3 little grooves in it. Once you get used to doing melting points, you can do up to 3 samples at a time. Okay, the programmable one you can only do 2. Okay, but for this one, you look through the magnification lens in the front. Okay, if you're using the Meltemp, be sure that when you plug it in and turn it on, that the knob is all the way down at 0 until you're ready for it to heat up. A number of years ago, I had a student who was using one of these to determine a melting point for one of his products. He went and got it, he plugged it in, he went to go prep his sample, not realizing that the previous student had left it on and the knob turned all the way up. So by the time he got his glass tubing and his melting point tube and got the sample compacted, his thermometer was pegged all the way at the top. And to be honest, he panicked a little bit, grabbed the thermometer, and all I heard was pop and a 4-letter expletive. This was one young man who I was constantly having to remind about his goggles. I said, please tell me you had your goggles on. He said, yes, I did. I did a little happy dance, and we went from there. Here again, if you are using this, just make sure that the student before you did what they need to do and turned it off and or moved the dial all the way down.